you?
Very good, thank you.
Lovely to meet you. I really enjoyed watching the show.
I appreciate it.
It's an interesting show, right? Because there's this New York City, mob boss who...
First of all, does it play well?
Oh, yeah, played very well.
Good.
Yeah.
You never know with the editing.
Yeah, no, played very well. I felt riveted.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I felt like...
Riveted.
And you know what I liked about it? Is that it wasn't one thing. Like, it wasn't just action, it just wasn't violent. It was really kind of funny.
Yeah.
What got you into it? Like, what got you interested in doing something like this? Because you haven't done TV before.
I got it because I wanted to do something that, first of all, there's always, if you're Italian or even a quarter Italian, there's something about Mecca is playing a gangster. It's like, oh, I want to do that with the suit and the tie. There's something about it that when you grow up looking at it, you go, oh, that's kind of cool. And that never happened. So when the opportunity came around, I said, I'm the right age, I'm this, I have the right look to play this kind of character who has been incarcerated for 25 years, and he comes out, but he still has a fire in the gut, kind of a thing. But he's not your typical gangster. He's maintaining a sense of humor to keep him from going stir crazy and mad. And probably the angriest you see him is when he confronts his family, the mafia family, and they betray him. And then I thought, it was supposed to be very angry at that time. I said, no, maybe Tulsa's a blessing. I'm going to go out there and start all over again. I'm going to get a fresh start. Yeah. And here he is. He has two choices, either a fresh start or just die of loneliness out there. And he starts to build this family of misfits. And that's what I thought was intriguing, that it's not your typical, takes place in the Bronx. It's not, what was that one, Donnie Brasco kind of thing. No, it's just way lighter than that.
I got a couple of things I want to touch on there. But before that, you said you've had an amazing career, but you said you've always wanted to do the mafia movie thing, but you've never been able to do it.
Never. Because you have to do it with someone who sort of has the cachet, which is Scorsese.
Yeah.
And Coppola.
Yeah.
And both of them said, nix. And I go, why?
To you?
Yeah. And I think a lot of it has to do, I know this is going to be taken the wrong way, but they work primarily with pure actors that don't know any, they're not really camera savvy or this or production design savvy, that kind of thing. They work specifically doing their job. And I know that quite often directors do not want to work with other people that, what lens is that?
People who also know the guts of making movies and TV.
Yes, because you go, do you think maybe you should lower it about 4 inches and then perhaps rack focus to him? It doesn't sit well. And I get it, because I've had that thing. So I thought maybe that's a component, or maybe they just don't think you have it. One of the two. I tend to think the former, I hope.
I thought, but didn't I hear a story that you were like up for something in The Godfather, or like an extra or something like that?
Well, yes. I was up. They needed 250 people, basically 50 to stand behind the wedding cake. You don't even see me. And I was turned down by Paramount, who did Tulsa King, to be an extra behind the cake. And they said, oh, you don't look Italian enough. I said, the only thing that looked more Italian than me is a pizza. What is wrong with you people? My God. I have spaghetti hanging from my hair. And 30 years later, I hired that casting agent to be an agent. I go, how you doing?
Is this true?
True.
You hired the person who turned you down for not being Italian enough to be...
That's right.
Did you tell them?
Oh, every day.
Let me ask something about your character in Tulsa King now, because what I loved about him is that he's tough. He's physically tough.
Yeah.
He's a big brute.
Mm-hmm.
And he also has that. And I think at the beginning of the show, all I had seen was the violence. I had seen him have that violent moment with his family. I had seen him sort of have a violent moment in the weed shop.
Yeah.
And then quickly you start to realize his heart is there.
You don't need to put yourself through this thing. I want to be your friend. I want you to be my friend. I don't want to hurt your feet. Just open the safe, please. Yes.
Talk to me about that in the context of this.
Well, I think the heart component is something that is just another word for relatability. If you want to isolate an audience and play a true psychopathic kind of criminal, which many of them are,
yeah.
there's just I've met quite a few of them. They're pretty terrifying.
There's no heart.
You Sammy the Bulls, and these guys are just Sonny Franchese. They look at you, and they're almost feral. It's a real thing. It's not a joke. They're killers. And they have a certain aura. I said, I'm not a killer. Never have been. I'm more of an organizer. They call him the general. So I said, how do I imbue this with heart? And how is he has to have something that eats at him, some unfinished business, and that's with a daughter. A daughter. And I don't know if that comes up in the first episode, but eventually you're going to find out that he says earlier on, I lost my daughter, my wife, everything I gave to this family. So we're going to see that there's a regret and a heartbreak to him. And that's going to drive a great deal of this show. And it even makes it more relatable to anyone who has a family. So I've always found that even in Rambo, that if he's brokenhearted, he's not malicious, he's not bombastic. He's just a fellow who almost needs to die in the service of others, because he just has very little self-worth. The audience is going to feel for him and root him on. And he's always taking on people that cannot take care of themselves, especially the fourth one, which is my favorite by far. That one was the best action film I've ever done because it's so realistic. I'm proud of having done it for like $11 million. The whole thing was incredible.
I'm stuck on something you said there about the idea that these people are self-conscious, or they have something, they feel wounded in some way. I was talking to a friend of mine, and I thought of you when I was watching this thing. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day who he was like yourself. Like he won for the weights, right? Like he lifts weights, and he's quite
right.
I'm cut like a bag of milk is what I am. But like this fella's more like.
I'm going to tell you that you're in better shape than I am.
Yeah.
I'm serious.
We'll
I'll trade backs with you any day. Can I have your knees, please?
You can probably take them. He said, I got into, and I thought about you because I know this is kind of true with you, or I think it is. He said, I got into taking care of my body because I felt vulnerable. I had a hard upbringing. People picked on me.
That's true.
I had a hard go. And so when I was watching this Tulsa King, and I ended up looking at Rocky, and I ended up looking at all these things, I saw that there's a vulnerability and a heart there, and that looking after yourself can become armor.
Yes.
Muscles can become armor.
100%.
Do you know what I mean?
100%. I had a very tumultuous upbringing, very physical, and rough father, rough everything. And I was thin. I just was not genetically, what would you say, a mesomorph. I was an ectomorph.
Yeah.
Thing. And I went to see a film one day, and it altered my life completely. It was Steve Reeves in Hercules Unchained. And when he struck that pose, I had an epiphany. I went, that's who I want to be. That's a man. That's, oh my God. And I ran out of the theater after that and went to a junkyard and started lifting little brake drums or anything that I could lift. It was like 30 pounds, whatever. And I never stopped. And I did build on armor. It was like, I felt I could really take care of myself. I could inflict punishment rather than take punishment. And I never stopped. But I always felt that a lot of guys, it's a lot of action guys, have no heart. And you can see in their films, all they do is kick ass. They never get hurt, ever. Not a bloody nose. And that's not real. The audience can't relate to that. Everybody gets hurt. Either metaphorically, symbolically, or physically, they get hurt. And you root for that person who gets hurt. Get up! Because we all get knocked down. And that's just a credo I've followed my whole life. That he's not a pillar of strength. He's a pillar of dominoes. It's just...
Because you know what it's like to be a big man, a big kid. Like, you had done the work, you had become Hercules. But that, you could still get hurt.
Big time. It didn't... words still could penetrate all the muscles. And that's why if I have to do scenes where, especially you'll see coming up in Tulsa King,
Yeah.
they're pretty emotional. You go, Jesus, I haven't seen gangsters do that before. Because a lot of them just turn it off. They'll cry if their dog dies,
Yeah.
which is true.
Yeah.
And there was a hitman named Joey. Crying, St. Bernard dies, but he'll just shot 3 people that afternoon. Meant nothing. Odd, but true.
Oh, for sure. Is that where was that when you did when you did Rocky at first?
Yeah.
That this guy had a heart of gold and he would get beat up and
Right.
he would get hurt and he'd be yelling. Because actually we did a little poll in our office the other day.
Yeah.
I don't know if you'll take offense to this. I hope you don't. But we said we asked everybody what happens at the end of the first Rocky, and 80% of people said that he wins.
No.
Yeah. I think because they wanted, didn't they? Yeah. I think because they wanted the idea of him being this champion over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
But when I was looking back on it again, it's not about that.
No.
It's not about him winning.
No. It's him going the distance, surviving.
Yeah.
'Cause I just thought him winning would have been, it defeats the whole purpose. Because not all of us are ever going to be the champion, but we can go the distance. We can put up a great fight. And the main thing is, the only thing he wanted was his woman, Adrian. That's all he was there for. Just prove to her that he wasn't a bum from the neighborhood. And that's something that's attainable. Being a champion is very rare, difficult. And he wasn't that kind of guy. It wasn't important to him. She was important to him. That's why it was very hard to sell the movie in the first place.
I was about to ask, did anyone say, no, he should win?
All the time. It was a battle. Like the one scene, I'll never forget, the producer said, we're cutting the film. You know that old adage, we're going to pull the plug.
Yeah.
Well, they actually pulled the plug. I thought it was just a saying.
Like they had a projector?
For the lights. The lights were on one box, transform, whatever you call it. Hey guys, we don't need this scene. This scene was the most important scene in the movie. Is where Rocky comes back from the arena and realizes he can't win. And so he changes his whole priority. He goes, I can't win. He lays up with his wife. But if I can go the distance, he's so great. And he's going to beat me. He's going to hurt me, but I don't care. If I can just go that distance, I know for the first time in my life, I'm not a bum. You can be proud of me. They pull. I go, stuff. This is the most important scene in the movie. This is it. This is what sets the whole thing.
Why does he pull? Why?
Because he goes, it's 8 o'clock, everyone's tired. I go, it's the most important scene. So I have to tell you, a little rowdy. I was nuts because I said, guys, and I screamed. I said, give me one take. I was so like this. Downstairs there's a wine store, whatever you want to it was in Skid Row for hobos. I literally downed a bottle of Boone's Farm wine, 99 cents. Whoa, it hits you right away with all this sugar. I said, okay. And yeah, guys, everyone wants to go home. So all right, one more time. They put the camera up. I'm laying in bed. I come in. I go, I can't win. What? I can't win. But it doesn't matter if he opens my head. And the camera's just coming in like this. It's one take. And thank God she didn't blow a line. I didn't blow a line. And it ends. She goes, cut. Next day, the scene they hated, the producers come out and go, Sly, that's the best friggin' scene in the movie. I went, I know. This is what I had to deal with. They're making all this. But the whole point is that's the heart. Nothing's braver than knowing you're going to lose. You're going to take a beating. You're done. But if you stood up to this class bully, you did something that no one else had the guts to do.
It reminds me of this story I heard about you. I mean, there's a really famous story about you, but I've never heard you talk about why. Like, the famous story is that you turned down all this money, like $60K back then, which was like, I don't know.
How much?
60? Didn't you turn down $60K for the screen? 360K
Yeah.
for the screenplay to Rocky because they didn't want you to be in it, right?
No. Can you blame them? Who was I?
What I've never heard you talk about is what is in you to be able to turn that down when you don't have anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It'd be easy to do now, but it's harder to do It'd be easy for someone to do at a bigger stage in their career.
It is.
But when you were broke, man.
I was flat ass broke. I mean, seriously, done. But it depends how well you know yourself. I knew my personality that if I sold it, that was probably $1 million plus by today's dollars. A millionaire. And someone else did it, and it was successful. I would have never forgiven myself. I would have been a broken, embittered man for the rest of my life. So I realized we have in our entire futures about 3 or 4 serious crossroads, and that was my first one. That's where a real serious crossroad, where this is life altering. And I said, money, it's not about money. I know I will be destroyed, and I will destroy everyone around me. I'll be such a miserable human being for selling out. This is what the whole movie was about. It's not selling out.
You knew that it would ruin.
I know. I just know how I work. I know what my engine will do, and I would have been. I don't want to get overly dramatic, but I would have been dead. I would have not. I wouldn't have survived it. I mean it. I would have just been so miserable that my life would have just spiraled. I know it because I sold out. And I said, no, because when you're broke, I actually mastered the art of poverty for a while. You figure it out. All right, we have spaghetti one day a week and this and that. Yeah. I managed, and I still had this blatant optimism. But if I had sold out, oh my God, and I knew it. And they tried. I mean, believe me, they tried. And there were a few guys at that time that were somewhat physical. You Burt Reynolds and guys that But I said, this is it. This is my only chance. Because I was always getting cast as a thug. That was it. I was always beating up Woody Allen, beating up Jack Lemmon. So when I wrote this, I wrote as a thug. He's a thug. But he can't even do that well. He can't break the guy's thumbs. He can't do anything. He's really a gentle guy.
Yeah. Which is, this is what I see in the show as well. That deep down below this mafia boss is this sweet guy who wants to be loved.
Are you saying I'm a wimp? I think.
As long as you're this far away from me, yeah, sure.
No,
yeah. If you were any closer to me, I'd be like, oh God, no, of course not.
I've embraced my inner wimp.
Well, let me no, but I think what we're talking about when we talk about the wimpiness is that I think that when people are raised with a certain amount of toughness, as you said, there's an expectation that there is no vulnerability. But vulnerability is really powerful. And we went on YouTube and we watched the last clip from First Blood, right?
Yeah.
It's still really heartbreaking to watch. I want to read you the top comment on a YouTube post from that scene.
Okay.
Though he doesn't directly mention PTSD, Rambo was way, way ahead of its time in exposing the psychological challenges our soldiers face. The scene is so powerful yet heartbreaking.
So true. Okay, I'll give you a little insight on that. So, Rambo, the way it was written, he dies. Troutman shoots him. I want him to shoot me. He said, "You made me. You killed me. I don't want to do it." And I make him pull the trigger, and I die in slow motion. I said, "I can't do this." I said, "There's too many guys out there like Rambo with PTSD that are they're jumping into the subway, 20,000 a year, just killing themselves because they can't cope." So I go, that's not the message. That's the only way out is to die. And so I put together all these letters and quotes and things and put in whatever I wanted to add to this speech. Afterwards, I did it. There was a Navy SEAL there. I go, "What'd you think?" He goes, "You did us. You gave us respect." The director went crazy. He goes, "Okay, now do the one where you shoot yourself." I go, "No." He goes, "Yeah, you have to." I said, "I'm not doing it. And that's not the message I'm leaving." He goes around, and there's moose heads. He throws the moose heads down. He takes a rifle, breaks it over the desk. He flips the desk out. He went literally around me, and everything, and his windows, lights, chandeliers, you name it. And I go, "I'm going." He goes, "I'll kill you." I said, "No, you won't." And I literally went home that night. I get sued.
Got sued.
I got sued. He went to the Directors Guild. Had to go back. Now, I'm different. My weight is different. My hair is shorter. I'm not into it. I don't even look. I'm not that gaunt animal. I'm fucking well fed.
Yeah.
I'm having my 10 donuts a day. And so I go there. My hand is crooked. My hair is like frizzy. And I do the scene as written. You made me. You shoot me. And I like go and die in slow motion. So they screen it in a theater in Las Vegas for a test audience. If you were in the aisle, you would have been trampled to death. They were so bummed out after seeing this character and getting to like him, embracing him, to see him die like that. Finally, the studio goes, yeah, throw this one out, put it on the extras part, and bring back the other one. But yeah, it wasn't easy sell.
That's another example of you having to stand by things. It's another example, like in Tulsa King, of having violence and strength and aggression, and then like what actually matters at the heart of it.
Yes.
Lovely to meet you. Thanks for your time.
Well, thank you. You're very good.
Yeah, you're pretty good yourself.